right, good day, family. Woo. Good day, everybody. Welcome to another broadcast. Today is July the 18th, 2025. Broadcasting to you live from the beautiful state of Arizona, where the temperature here is, where I am, is 102 degrees. And yeah, it is warm, but that's what comes with the territory. You either like it or you don't. But anyway, we're going to have a good broadcast today. I'm glad that you're joining us. And going to go through a few things here. Yes, we are going to be talking about this crisis. It's a real crisis that's going on right now. I know that's a word that's kind of thrown around all over the place today, but we really need to get into this. We really need to take this extremely serious, and I'll fill you in on the details in a little bit. We're also going to talk about a post I did just with this whole Epstein thing, and you know, what's the bigger picture? We'll talk about that and some of those things. What are they adding into our water? This whole fluoride thing. I know many of you have heard about fluoride and all of that, and I know that numbers of you hear it, but it still goes in and out of one ear, but you do need to take this serious. We'll talk about that. Obama has some tips for men. And yeah, we're going to talk about his tips, okay? And yeah, and then some other things too. So welcome. Glad that you guys can join us. And give us about another minute, and then we'll be starting just then, okay? All right, about another 30 seconds, and then we'll get started. All right, big shout out to everybody, of course, that's in the chat. Welcome to another broadcast, and thank you for joining us. And yeah, we got much to talk about, as we always do on these live broadcasts. And again, I want to just say thank you and appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to stop on through and all of that. And again, greatly appreciate it. Yes, Black America, or what we call specifically what we call the Black community, is definitely in a crisis. And the crisis I'm referring to is, in fact, one I would say is a mental health crisis. And I'm going to present to you 3 stories that I want you to definitely check out and look for yourself. But it ain't just 3. I'm not going to make a bold statement like that based off of 3 stories. There are many, many, many videos, articles, and studies that I could present right now that it would lose probably 99% of you. But it's all true. And unfortunately, you know, this is, when we talk about mental health, this is one of the topics that's, you know, very difficult for people to listen to, you know, especially when you start listening to a lot of the symptoms. You find that that actually sounds like someone I know. And in numbers of cases, the person will probably say that sounds like me. And so we have to take this very serious. And when you hear these 3 stories that I'm gonna give to you, you're going to definitely see why. real quick, I do want to mention this weekend, this Sunday, we will be having our alternate day fasting class. Okay, alternate day fasting class. It's still time for you to sign up over at sambatree.com. Alternate day fasting. Okay, this is about not just centered around you losing weight. Losing weight is a great thing, of course, but it's also tied to a number of things within your body, within your mind, and just all around. And Nicole's going to be doing that this Sunday. Okay. Now, if you are someone who is signed up for it, we've already had an email go out to remind you of that and also give you some other important information. Now, let me say this. If you are someone who has signed up to be on the mailing list of Samba Tree, and for whatever reason, it's fine. If you opted out of receiving, being on that mailing list, but yet you sign up for one of our classes, what then happens is we are not, by law, we cannot send you any more emails. So what's happening is that we got folks who signed up for the course, but because they opted out of receiving emails from us, there's going to be an additional delay of you getting any kind of reminders from us because you made it, you stated or clicked wherever and you opted out. Now, it could have been an accident or whatever, but I'm just letting you know if you are someone, you're in that category and you opted out of receiving emails from us, I mean, that's totally fine. But just know that when it comes from important notifications or anything like that, you're not going to get them, or it's going to be a big delay. And then end up happening is you guys didn't tell us, whatever. And it's like, we can't, because, when it comes to email by law, we can't continue sending emails if you, as an individual, you've opted out, because what happens is that if we continue to do that, even though you opted out, they can shut our whole account down. And I'm not trying to have that happen. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay, but it's still time for you to sign up, and I'll talk more about it. This class that's coming up this coming Sunday. All right. So like I said, it's still time for you to sign up. It's going to be this Sunday, starting in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. Okay. So you can still sign up for it now. Sorry.
If that applies to them, just tell them to email us and give us authorization so we can send them their class information.
Okay. So you heard that. So yeah. If that's you, make sure you email us immediately. If you're one of those people who opted out and you're like, oh, I didn't get an email, just make sure you email us ASAP and we can send out an email to you. All right. Okay. So I'm going to come back and talk about why that class is very important a little bit later in the broadcast. But again, I want to give a big shout out to everybody that's in the chat. So good to see you guys as always. Let me get to this, what I'm talking about as far as like these stories are concerned. Let me see. Had it up. Man, I had it up. Okay, there are 3 stories and they are coming. Here it is. I think, yeah, here it is. Let me scroll it over here. Keep going. Okay, here we go. Okay, so there were like 3 stories that took place. And I will tell you the first one. It involved a young lady who was a babysitter. And I'm going to get it here in a moment. She's a babysitter, young black girl. And she, for whatever reason, got frustrated with the children and decided, oh, I know where it is. I was like, why can't I find this thing? And took it out on the children. And I'm pulling it up right now for you. And this is something that is really, really something here. Let me get it up here. If I can't find it, because I had it up. The other 2 stories I have, that one for some reason, it's not up. Let's see where it is. I'll just tell you about it. I'll tell you about it because I don't want to take too much of people's time. But this is a story that it was involved. It was a young black woman who was babysitting the children of, just in this particular case, it happened to be a story that involved, it was the children were white. It was a white family. Well, this black woman, she lost it for whatever reason and literally took out a switch and beat these kids and seriously injured them. And so, looks like, of course, she's going to be doing some time in prison, doing that kind of stuff. And like someone pointed out, which is very true, if that was the roles were reversed, and we were talking about a situation where it was black children that were being beaten by white children, a white woman, then, you and I both know how that story would propagate. And, it would be all over the news, all over the media. But not just that, black folks, of course, would make it into a whole national thing that we got to get together and we got to protect our children. I mean, you know the drill, right? You know the drill. And so I saw this and I was like, again, when I hear these stories now from me, it's like every time I hear something like this, what goes through my mind is, man, what happened? What happened in this person's mind to where they just literally snap like that? Now, there are many, many stories out here that are just like this. There are many stories that we could point to, but I'm just pointing out to that one right now. I can't believe I can't find this thing. It's like I'll bookmark it, and then when I go to my Twitter feed, it reorders them. And so it puts them in some weird order where I can't even find it. But anyway, yeah, so that was that story. And, but, again, you look at the comments, you listen to different ones, and then they will say, well, you should, that's why you shouldn't be messing with us. That kind of, it's that kind of stuff. And it's like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? But this is pretty commonplace. Do you understand what I'm saying when I say this? In other words, there are many cases out there today of black children that are being abused by black family members, and they are going into foster care, which is what, our foster care system has a high percentage of black children. When we hear about runaways, for example, or missing girls or whatever, black girls or black boys, it's always black girls. It's never black boys, as if black boys aren't missing, but it's always black girls, but we'll go with that. But we never dig into why these young ladies are running away from their homes. And a lot of times it is due to abuse that they're facing inside their homes. And so a lot of times when you look at, what's being talked about, the chatter that's going on in the black space of the internet, though that high increasing amount of abuse that has been going on for years and years and years, it rarely gets talked about, does it? It rarely gets talked about unless the story involves somebody that's white that's doing it. Now, all of a sudden, we have to protect our children. And I don't know, it's sad to say that it's only then when the value of our children goes up is when they're being abused by someone that we perceive as the enemy, not wanting to acknowledge the enemy within. And so these are things that must be talked about. And I understand, and people get angry, they get mad, they want to unsubscribe because the moment you talk about it, you're beating up on black people. No, I guess I am. I want to beat up on the abusers. I want to beat up on the ones that sweep this stuff under the rug. You're daggone right. I want to beat up on them. Absolutely. I want them exposed. Just like, if I want the Epstein stuff to be exposed, before that, I want to see the abusers within what we call the community exposed. But unfortunately, it's another day. Just shrug your shoulders and let's move on to the next story. Here's another story here, because I couldn't find that one, but I do have this one here. Both of these, happened in Texas. Again, what's happening in Texas? Is there something in the water? I mean, I don't know what's going on in Texas, but let me get this story up. This involves both of these. Look, already a down arrow. I told you, already a down arrow. The moment you start talking about this, people get mad. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? Well, I'm going to keep talking about it. Okay. Here's a story, another one. Man shot and killed during haircut. This is in Arlington, Texas. And I think it would probably be best, I'll let them talk about it. I'll let the news reporter do the news reporting thing and let them talk about it, okay? And let's go ahead and let's give a listen here.
In Arlington, 2 people are dead after a shooting. Police say they're investigating the case as a murder-suicide that unfolded just before 10 this morning on the South Cooper Road. We learn more from our Alicia Barrera.
Yeah, tenants that witnessed this shooting tell me that the victim was inside the salon in his barber's chair getting a haircut when a woman walked in and opened fire.
I work here. I have a barber suite inside, and I was getting ready to go in, and one of the suite owners 2 doors down actually told me, hey, don't go inside. Somebody just got shot.
A regular client from Salon and Spa Galleria Arlington off South Cooper Road is dead after police say a woman walked in and opened fire before shooting herself.
I just walked around the corner, and that's when I saw everything, all the cops swooping in, and I noticed the fire truck and the ambulances were across the street.
Police said the woman was taken to the hospital where she later died, adding that the two had a romantic relationship in the past.
I would say 20 feet from their suite.
Mario Ibarra, a barber at the salon suites, walked up to the aftermath this morning. His colleagues, distraught, some crying on the sidewalk as they try to process the violent crime.
They seemed pretty shaken up, obviously.
Off camera, this man who rents a suite told me he saw the woman fire multiple times directly at the victim. The man, he said, was in his barber's chair at the time of the shooting. The barber's wife telling me her husband is too distraught to speak publicly. However, he was not injured. A cause has not been determined by police. In Arlington, Alicia Barrera, NBC5.
And yes, they were black. This did, from what I understand, these were black folks who, the woman, clearly there was a history there, and she was so distraught that she decided to do that, to shoot at him and to end her own life. Okay, so that's one story. But then a little over a week prior, it's this other story here. As soon as I can get it up here, hold on. This one right here. This is shops at Redbird shooting. Woman allegedly kills mall cookie store owner. Let's see, a store owner was killed inside the shops at Redbird on Tuesday. Investigators believe Rashonda Lowe entered into the mall with a gun and shot Jamie Rokert multiple times after talking to him for about an hour. What we know, the shooting happened around 4 p.m. at the Cookies and Smoothies store inside the mall. Dallas police said 43-year-old Rashonda Lowe killed 53-year-old Jamie Rokert. She later turned herself in to police in Arlington and was transferred to Dallas police custody to face charges. Lowe is now being held at the Dallas County Jail on a murder charge. Her bond amount has not yet been set. They say, according to the arrest warrant affidavit, Lowe told police Rokert was her ex. The court document states the two were seen talking at the cookie shop for more than an hour on Tuesday afternoon. Witnesses told Fox 4 they began arguing and they heard gunshots. Lowe allegedly shot Rokert multiple times in the head, chest, and legs. After firing a few rounds, she jumped over the counter and fired more shots at close range, the affidavit states. Lowe appeared to be crying as she ran from the store and drove away in a white SUV, witnesses told police. Now, what makes this story adds another interesting twist to this story is that this woman here, Rashonda Lowe, now, she ain't just anybody. This ain't just anybody here. Okay. Rashonda Lowe actually has a history. And it's quite an interesting history because this is her here, Rashonda Lowe. She is on this website. It's called Therapy for Black Girls. Therapy for Black Girls. And I'm just going to read to you what she posted here. Do you feel overwhelmed, confused, or simply exhausted due to the demands of life and relationships with family, friends, and or colleagues? Are you engaging in negative self-talk and very critical of yourself and others? Or do you have difficulty asserting your needs from others only to feel resentful and taken advantage of when you don't speak up? If so, I can assist you on your healing journey to improve your relationship with yourself and others. I work best with clients who are in the action stage of change and willing to do it afraid. I help teens, adults, and couples identify what ways of thinking or reacting are not serving them and ways to modify thinking, reacting in an effort to improve relationships with others and self. Together, we can assess adverse life experiences that have contributed to how you respond to life in ineffective ways. We will also uncover unhealthy core beliefs that stem from adverse experiences so that we can increase your ability to understand yourself deeper and make the necessary mental/behavior changes from this updated awareness. And then she goes on to say, finding a compatible therapist is essential. The relationship with your mental health provider is a very important factor. I am considered by many of my clients very relatable and personable, as I am human first and have dealt with some of the same issues as you. I have found that I work best with clients who have good people skills and are self-starters. You deserve a safe space to heal, learn, and grow. Let's begin your healing journey. And that was one. And on here, she's listed on Psychology Today. You know, they have a page that you can go to if you're looking for a psychologist in your area. And, you know, she kind of it's kind of a shortened, way of what I just read, And so yeah, this is her here. She is a therapist, licensed therapist, social worker, that kind of thing. But unfortunately, she is in jail right now for murder. Now, let me tell you this. There are most websites that you would go to right now, websites. There are most YouTube pages that you will go to right now with this bit of information that I just shared with you. They would take this information and they would immediately say, see, these black women are crazy. And use that as a way of saying, assigning this behavior to all black women. And this is why, fellas, see, we got to be careful. These women out here, they crazy. It would be real easy to do that because a lot of people will come to that conclusion. But on this platform that you're watching right now, we're saying this. It's not just black women. It's also black men, and it's also the children as well. And this is an ongoing issue that we have been trying to address, talking about here on our Samba Tree page as well, going back and finding out what is it exactly that causes people just to simply flip on just things like that. There's a bad relationship. Y'all had an argument. Okay, I'm gonna get a gun and just end it. You get on my nerves. Let me get a gun and I'm just gonna end it. You looked at me funny or you disrespected me. Okay, the next logical step is to take you out. And it may not be you, right? I might not be talking to you, but who I'm talking to is this culture that we call black culture today that has normalized this kind of rationale. And when we start digging into the details on how do people arrive to these very drastic conclusions, what you'll find is there are things in there that can be fixed. They can be adjusted. Now, in regards to this story that I just read to you that was really interesting, and really why I wanted to talk about that one, here we're dealing with someone who's a counselor. Someone's a licensed therapist. And look at how she crashed out. Now, there's a couple of things that's worth mentioning here. Number one, if you are in that field of therapy, it's imperative. It's imperative for you, if you are all week listening to clients, listening to other people's problems, you need to have your a therapist yourself, because you're going to need some way to exhale. You're going to need some way to offload that. You understand what I'm saying? You can't just take that on. And what I've noticed is this ain't the first therapist that I've seen that have just lost it like this. There are a number of stories that are out here that are just like this, where they just completely go bonkers. But you remember something I said to you, it was in a broadcast I did not too long ago, is that when you're dealing with individuals who are always carrying crises, they're always carrying trauma, at some point that's going to get loose. Those people who carry trauma, they are in no position at all to give you any kind of help or advice. They are in no position to do that. That's why today, nowadays, it's really imperative for you. There used to be a time when it's pretty natural. Hey, listen, if you younger people, if you're going through something, man, find yourself an elder, find yourself someone who's been through, and you can sit down and they can help you and guide you through all that. But let me update that advice here. Allow me to update that advice as someone who's over 50. Don't do that. No, don't do that. Don't assume that. Because what I'm noticing, and I'm sure many of you as well, what I'm noticing is that many of those who are in the quote unquote elder class, they need counseling. They need therapy. So you can't just assume that by going to someone who's maybe older than you that they done figured it out. Because what we're seeing today is there are numbers of cases where they haven't. And so this is why it's important if you are someone that is dealing with trauma, crises, you have to take care of you first. You understand? You got to focus on you first. What's the first step? Do everything you can to eliminate the trauma. Those that are putting that trauma in your life, you got to do everything you can to separate yourself from that. So that's people. There must be a people separation. Number two, there's also got to be a separation on what you put in. Many of you spend a great deal of time listening to trauma, be it entertainment, be it news, be it whatever. And that's your daily dose of what you take in on a regular basis. You can't do that, because what that does is it just adds layers to what's already there. You understand? And I would say number three would be definitely what you put in your body, your diet. If you are eating things that are not good for your body, some of the junk foods and stuff like that. I mean, it's okay to, have a burger here, pizza, whatever, every now and then. I'm not saying you got to go completely just eating bricks and bark, and nobody's saying that. But there's got to be more of a balance to what you put inside your body. Okay. It's a lot easier for me or others to do a video to talk about, because we're going to talk about some of these things that you are putting in our drinking water. It's easy to do a video that talks about how the government is poisoning our food and poisoning our water. Oh, you'll get a lot of clicks on that because it's somebody else doing it, right? It's a conspiracy. But what about the daily conspiracy that many people are participating in willingly by the things that you're putting in your mouth on a regular basis? See, all of those things, those three things I mentioned, separating yourself from certain people, the intake of what you take in on social media or whatever, and the stuff that you put in your mouth, those things are huge contributing factors. And those are the things that you have to start with, getting that out. And once you are doing that, then yes, you need to go and you're going to need to find somebody that you can talk to that is not only licensed, but they have a proven track record. Let me say that again. They have a proven track record that you can actually look at for yourself. Don't just willy-nilly just go down the list or whatever. Or don't just assume, oh, I'm in church and so I got to go to my pastor, because just because that person is a pastor, it doesn't mean that they're qualified to help you in your situation. You understand what I'm saying? So, but these are the things. So like I said, there are many videos. There's many things that I can present to you right now. I can show you, but I will lose most of y'all on it. Because if there's something in the minds of people, when you see this, it's like you just switch, turn it off. It doesn't exist. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know about it. And that's it. But meanwhile, it's getting crazier and crazier and crazier. And I'm seeing more and more people actually trying to find ways to justify this kind of activity and behavior, and it is really getting dangerous. So yes, what we call the Black community definitely has a mental health crisis that's going on right now. It's happening. It's happening right now. And it's one that you have to make sure you're protecting yourself. I cannot stress that enough. Okay. I can't stress that enough. It was kind of related, unrelated. It was funny this afternoon, I happened to be on X, Twitter, and I'm dialoguing with somebody who was claiming to, once again, one of these people who say I'm an Indian. They blacker than me, and they say I'm an Indian and I can trace my lineage back to whatever. And they were literally, this individual, they look older than me. They were grabbing random things off of the internet and claiming that this image is my grandpa and that image is this of my grandmother and all this. And I'm, I can't help it. I literally try to help people, even people like that. I literally try to, okay, let's walk through this. And this one individual, this individual I'm talking about, they were talking about how because their grandfather, was categorized as West Indian. Well, that means he's an Indian, and which makes this individual an Indian. And so I was like, okay. So I had to go back and I said, well, do you understand why it was called the West Indies in the first place? Christopher Columbus, he's sailing. He thought it was India. Okay. He thought he had reached the Indies, which he's thinking India. Okay. And there were natives that were on there, yes. And so, but we're not talking in today's world, we're not necessarily talking about them. All right. And so fast forward to today, right? When you say West Indian, people who are West Indian, that is going to be a culture that has a combination of African influence, European influence, and Asian, specifically Asian as it pertains to India. You'll find these three influences all packaged together. So when you hear Indies or West Indies, it's referring to that. And so this individual that I was kind of going back and forth with was trying to make this case that I got Indian all in my family, and and you can't tell me anything and all this stuff. And I was just like sitting there, and she's posting these, like I said, literally images. All I had to do is a reverse Google image search. And it's like, okay, you literally just pulling stuff from everywhere. And I see this stuff happen all the time. And I try to lay it out for people to try to get them to understand, just basic history. They don't want to hear it. And this woman went as far as, and I don't want to give y'all any ideas, but you can do this. Not just she was in the state of Georgia, but you can do this, I think, throughout the United States. If you self-identify as a different race, you can do that. You can, like, for example, in her case, you don't necessarily have to present any kind of like paperwork to prove that you are, let's say, for example, if my driver's license has Black American or African American or whatever that's on it, right? And let's say the next go around, when it's time for me to renew it, I say, hey, I want to update my driver's license, and now I want to say Native American. You could do that. You can do that because they can go by your word. In many states, they can do that. So somebody that's doing that, it doesn't really say too much, But what we have going on today, what that speaks of is a much deeper issue where you got adults, people that are even older than me, that are wanting to literally treat their own history as if it's some kind of Build-A-Bear. Well, my great grandmother, she's Indian, so therefore I'm Indian. And you should have seen the reaction of this individual. I said, well, tell me about your grandfather. The moment I said her grandfather, she cussed me out. I mean, it was like the demons of hell were coming out. I was like, why are you so offended about when I mentioned, is it father? Is that it? Is it father? Does that trigger you if I say father or something? And I'm literally trying to walk people through. I'm like, listen, yes, there were natives that were in this land that had darker skin, but a lot of these natives, they enslaved your ass. I mean, they enslaved you. But it's like a block in their minds that they don't want to hear that. I'm not going to deny that I have a percentage of Native American in my blood. I'm sure many of you who are Black and you could trace your lineage, especially in the Southeast, which is probably a majority of us, you're going to have a certain percentage of it. But you got to read the whole story. When you're talking about these different groups, most of them were enslaving you. But if you're going to take credit, if you're going to claim that little small percentage, then you might as well take claim of the percentage of the European that's in you. You might as well take claim of the other groups that, no, none of that counts at all. I'm just going to focus on this tiny little bit, and I'm going to build a whole origin story around that. You can't tell me that is not crying out that there's something mentally that's off. I will tell you that. I'll say it, okay? You may not want to say it. I'll say it. You can't tell me that. You got all of this other stuff going on in your whole bloodline and all of that, but you want to focus on this tiny bit. And I'll say the same thing about you Hebrew Israelites, the same thing. You will find all kinds of stuff to try to make it like, well, I'm Hebrew. And if you go all the way back to the such and such, and, I found that if you say this word 5 times and, and backwards and just close your eyes and meditate on it, it sounds like Negro. It sounds like me. It sounds, and it's like, I told you one of my favorite ones that everybody knows that put out here literally said, now this is the, the Sephardic Jew thing. Dear Lord Jesus. I mean, they still on that. They are still on the Sephardic Jews. Still on that. And now one of these people that are listening to this stuff, they won't pick up a book. You got freaking ChatGPT that will put it out for you. It will tell you. Don't listen to me. Go to ChatGPT. It will literally tell you. But anyway, Sephardic Jews, when you go back in their history, okay, for those of you who are familiar with like New York City, particularly in the Brooklyn area, once a year, it's some kind of festival that Jews have in the Brooklyn area. Crown Heights, Bed-Stuy, I think, like kind of like all in that area. They do this thing where you can pray, you can basically pass on your sins on a chicken, right? You can pass on your sins on a chicken. And you see pictures, and I've uploaded these many times on this platform. The what you call it, the rabbis, they're slinging these chickens around and all of that. and it's interesting because guess who else believes that? The people who practice voodoo. They believe that as well, passing on sins on chickens. But anyway, that's a whole side conversation I can get into because there's a lot of history between those two groups on that. But again, I could talk about that another day. But yeah, so this is a practice from these Jews, particularly, Sephardic Jews were doing it, that goes all the way back way before the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, are you guys following me? I just want to make sure you follow me. Okay, it's real easy. You can look this stuff up yourself. And so anyway, so there are accounts that talk about how when they were, doing these, whatever it is, passing on this event where they're passing on the sins on these chickens, there's feathers all over the place. And if you're familiar with this, like in the New York City area, literally there's feathers all over the place, right? And so this Negro took that, right, that account, and then coupled it with the account in the Bible where it talks about how the Israelites longed for melons. And so he put that together and said, see, these are your people, because on this account here, it talks about how they really love chicken. And in this account here, it talks about how they long for melon. And he imparted on there, he added watermelon to that and said, see, watermelon, chicken, watermelon, chicken. I'm not lying to you. It was so horrible. I called it out. I was trying to find a post. It was a while back. And I said, you gotta be joking me. You literally gotta be joking me. Your lineage is tied to some whatever that you try to put together. Chicken and watermelon is holding up chicken and watermelon is holding up your origin story. Think about that for a second. Chicken and watermelon is holding up your origin story. And when I try to explain this to folks, guess what? They get mad. How dare you say that? What happened to you? I decided to read. That's what happened. And I'm telling you, this is the kind of stuff that's out. When I listen to some of this stuff that's out here, you are dealing with various cases of mental health. There's some mental health issues that are going on there. There are. But the thing is, it's not something that you need to take pills for. Okay? It's not something you got to take pills for. It starts with, in many cases, it starts with a decision. It begins with a decision that you as an individual aren't going to be lied to anymore. You're not going to buy into the lies anymore. Yep, keep on hitting that down arrow. Keep on doing it, because I'm going to keep on telling the truth. Because if you are an individual that will not pick up a book and read it, you won't take the time to actually analyze, ask the questions that need to be asked, then no, this is not the place for you. But that's what we're going to do here. We're going to look at it. Because too many people are falling for this stuff, just like the stuff that I talked about, the Hebrew community in Dimona. We talk about Israel. I'm getting ready to get into Israel in a moment here. Dimona, Israel. Let me say that again. Dimona, Israel. You know what's in Dimona, Israel right now? Do you know what's in Dimona, Israel? Dimona, Israel. I'm going to keep saying it. Dimona, Israel. Can somebody who's been listening, who's actually picked up a piece of a book, can you tell me what major facility is in Dimona, Israel? I'll give you about a minute because I know there's a delay here. What major facility that you will find in Israel, in Dimona, Israel? I'm going to give you less than a minute now. And see if you've been either listening or at least you've done a tiny bit of research on this. And I'm putting this out especially for you Hebrew Israelites. Thank you. He said, a nuclear as in a nuclear plant where they develop nuclear weapons. Yeah, it's a nuclear power plant. Yeah, but that's what they call it. But yeah, they develop weapons there. Okay. Now, in Dimona, there's a nuclear weapons plant there. Now, the last I checked, Israel is actually in a war right now. Why my light just completely went out here? All right, whatever. Israel is in a war right now. Let me see what's going on here. Hold on for a second. This thing completely went out. Hold on. I don't know what happened here. Hold on. Oh. Is this it? Nope. Hold on, y'all. Something happened. Okay. I don't know what happened. Anyway, you guys can still see me. Israel is in a war right now. And, okay, and one of the targets that these countries have said that they're going to target is that power plant. Now, do you want to know, for those who haven't been tracking or haven't been paying attention, do you want to know what else is there? You want to know what else is in Dimona? It's a place called the Village of Peace. And this is where you will find, you guessed it, Hebrew Israelites that have moved from the United States, and they've been there since like the 70s. They have a whole village there. You can look it up here on YouTube. There's videos on it, you know, whatever. They have a whole village there. Who builds a village next or near a nuclear weapons plant and says that this is the promised land? I mean, I don't know if this, maybe the speaker here is not working. I don't know if the mic here is this. Did I put the screws on here? I don't know. Maybe sometimes it's dust that gets in here. Let me kind of clean this off a little bit. But let me just say this again. Who in their right mind will choose to live next to a nuclear weapons plant and say this is the promised land? Oh, and not only that, they fight with IDF. They have videos I've shown you. They have videos on here where they're in their IDF uniforms and fighting for Israel and all of that. Yeah, that's what's yeah. We've talked about that too. I've shown you all of that. So yeah, so this issue of this mental crisis, it is very real. And what I would argue is that yes, absolutely, that religion does nothing but to exasperate this mental crisis. That's what it does. And until you get to a place where you are willing to start asking yourself hard questions and start delving into this stuff, you will not be able to really fully understand all this other stuff. Before you start getting into the Epstein stuff, before we start talking about Clinton emails and all this other stuff and all these other conspiracies and things that are out here, you're not even ready for that. You ain't even ready for that. Or before you start trying to give a list of this is my genetic line, and you know I ain't black, I ain't no African. Shoot, I ain't no nothing African about me at all. Absolutely nothing African. I'm all Native American. I'm 100% Native American. I don't know nothing about no Africa or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, let's go through some of the details of your history. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of that. Some of the details of your history, some of the practices and stuff that you have or whatever. Let's talk about that. And let's do a side-by-side comparison between that and the native groups that you said you're part of. Well, once we do a side-by-side, I'm seeing a lot of differences here. I'm seeing it's looking a lot like Africa to me. Now, you may not have been there. You may not be able to put your finger on the village just like me, right? But the influences are there. It's simply undeniable. But there's a whole crop of people out here that no matter how much research you give them, they're not going to read it. They ain't going to look at it. They don't want to look at it. Because there are movements that are out here that are exasperating what's going on here. And we've been talking about this in our brain series, which is called Real Intelligence. And what we're doing is we're actually looking at all the functionalities of the brain. Okay. We're not adopting any kind of science where we're assuming that black folks are deficient. No. Where our bodies are made to operate at an maximum, at an optimum level, just like any other body. It's just certain things, because we didn't learn these things in our younger years. It's time for us to start learning this stuff. Do you understand what I'm saying? But we're not coming from a perspective that black folks, we just, because of slavery and all this other stuff. No, we're not. We're going to look at our bodies and we're going to learn. Okay. We're going to learn what's gray matter, what's white matter, what's your prefrontal cortex, what's the thing, all these other members of your brain, and what can we do to maximize these functionalities so that we can know what we're talking about, and we can reason and we can think things all the way through, or we don't just react off of someone looking at us funny. You understand what I'm saying? We can build up the checks and balances in our brain so that people aren't as suicidal as they were, today, as they were not years ago. Do you understand what I'm saying? There was a time where you didn't have suicide rates like we have today. You understand what I'm saying? I don't think you don't quite know who you're dealing with here. I'm talking about myself now. I've told you, my goal in life is to get as many Negroes, as many black folks out of these hospitals, out of to eliminate them, to get them off of these high blood pressure medicines and diabetes. That's my goal. But most importantly, to get their asses out of these hospitals. That's my goal, is to get as many people out of here. But you can't leave if you're not willing to do the work yourself. It starts with that. That's where it begins. That's where it begins. But unfortunately, there's too many people who are dependent on, I'm gonna need all my medicines. I'm gonna need all this stuff, because I can't. No. Now, I'm not sitting up here telling you got to throw everything out. Of course not. There's a way to do that and all that stuff. And there are professionals that are out there that can help you do that. But as far as getting off of this mindset that somehow you need them in order to survive, that's the biggie. That's the biggie. That's a hard thing right now to convince folks of that. But we're going to do our part. We're definitely going to do our part here. Anyway, let's move on to the next thing here. Obama. Now, Obama, he had some advice to give black folks, or not black folks. I take that back. He has some advice to give to men. That's what it was. He has some advice to give to men when it comes to, how to be a better man. Okay. And so let me pull this up here and let's take a listen to what the advice he is giving on, once again, his lovely wife's podcast, who finding everything in the world wrong in her life. And, but she managed to get Obama up there to, I think part of this was to dispel any kind of myth out there or saying that people are saying that they're having marital issues or whatever. And they talked around. I'm not trying to listen to them. I'm not, but I do want you to hear this. Okay. So take a listen to this. And this is them. This is Obama giving advice to men, in regards to, what is needed for a man to be a better man. Take a listen.
And that's one of the things that I think a lot of times boys need, is not just exposure to one guy,
One dad.
One dad. No matter how good the dad is.
He can't be
Like,
everything.
he can't be everything. And that boy may need somebody to give the boy some perspective on the dad.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
One of the most valuable things I learned as a guy was I had a gay professor in college at a time when openly gay folks still weren't out of line, who became one of my favorite professors and was a great guy and would call me out when I started saying stuff that was ignorant. You need that to show empathy and kindness. And by the way, you need that person in your friend group so that if you then have a boy who's gay or non-binary or what have you, they have somebody that they can go, okay, I'm not alone in this.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Okay, so Obama now is telling men that you need a gay, friend. You need a gay friend in order to really learn how to be a man. Now, I want you to keep in mind, this is the same person that came out with a book called Dreams of My Father. I don't know, maybe that has something to do with that. So you're dreaming about your father, but you today are talking, but while you're dreaming about your father, you're telling men that you need to have a gay friend. I think we found the problem. See, I don't want people dreaming. I don't want men out here to be dreaming about their father. You could do that. But men that are out here, they need other men to help them to navigate. There are plenty of men out here that could do that. Plenty of men that are out here that can help navigate men and teach them the things that they need to know in life. There's plenty of men out here that are like that, contrary to whatever that you hear out here. Just like there are many great women out here that can teach our women how to be better women, right? But the man that is stuck dreaming about his father is telling men, particularly straight men, hey, you need to have a gay friend. Well, let me tell you something. No, you don't. And so it said, Obama just told on himself. Exactly. He did. And see, I could go even further than that, but I'm a limit my words on that whole situation right there. Definitely going to limit myself on that. But no, you don't need a gay friend in your life. Okay, I'm speaking as a straight man, okay? I do not, I've said this many times. It feels like millions, but I've said this many times. I don't hate if I come across a man, which I have, and he happens to be gay, I don't hate him. Okay? I don't. If I come across someone who's gay, it's usually in the context of me doing business. Like if I'm, if this person is selling something or they're providing some kind of service or something like that, like in a restaurant or something like that. I don't care. I literally don't care. I'm not looking at you like, oh, can I get another waiter here because I don't deal with those gays? No, I'm not the one. Okay. Or no, better yet, I'm not the guy that's like this. Hey, you guys. Hey, see this guy's. I don't have time. You think I got time for that? I ain't got time for be filming the whole drama thing. I'm there to eat and keep it moving. Or if I'm trying to buy something, I'm there to buy something and keep it moving. I don't care. That's your choice. That's your lifestyle. Whatever. Okay. But let me just say this. But no, for me to tell a straight man, to tell my son, how about that? In order for you to learn how to really be a man, you're going to need a gay man in your life. Well, what does that do with the woman in his life? What does that do with his mother? What does that do with his sister? They don't have nothing to contribute. They ain't got nothing to offer in this situation. They ain't got absolutely nothing to offer, when it comes to on other issues that are best suited for women to address, you know what I'm saying? And understanding and perceiving people and all of that, women can really help out with stuff like that, right? Why are they left out of the equation? There are plenty of good men that are out here that can do that. But what I am telling you is that men who do live that life, like I said again, that's your choice, but it's not natural, period. I will say that over and over and over again. It is not natural. That's not natural. It isn't. I don't hate you. I care enough about you to tell you the truth. It is not natural. And whoever contributed to you getting to this point where you now want to identify as that, that's wrong. Because you do have quote unquote straight or men that are masquerading as straight men that do this to these children. And they grow up like that, starting with the church. We got a whole two or 3 part series on that, where we talk about in these churches where you got these people who parade themselves as straight men who in the back, they're doing stuff to these little boys. And these little boys grow up to be great gospel singers that everybody's all following and everything, falling all over, talking about this, the anointed. No, they're gay. And there's a reason why they can hit them high notes. It's because Unc back there done did something. Let's talk about it. Or pastor or bishop done did something. Everybody was jumping on TD Jakes or whatever. He swallowed. Okay, that was funny a little bit. But do you know how many bishops and pastors I can go through? I could talk. I did several videos talking about just Kojic alone, how they operate just like the Catholic Church. As soon as a pastor, something comes out about a pastor done did something to one of the little boys or one of the children, they move them to someone else. They move it to another church. Another bishop, they don't move them to another church. They just had a whole, Kojic just had another big old convention. And the amount of gay men I saw parading back and forth there, I'm sitting up here looking like, okay, it's all out now. It's literally all out now. I saw this one guy, he gay as I don't know what, had a little tiny, them little hats, because they big on hats and stuff at these conventions. Had a little women's hat, little old hat. And, yeah, I'm selling these hats, and everybody in the comment section. Yeah, you better get it. Oh, you working that? Oh, hallelujah! And I was like, how you all mixing? I don't. How is this all even working? How you gonna preach this? But I don't understand. But then you want to get up, but Jesus, he was a man's man. Really? Why you ain't? See, everything I'm telling you, it all falls under mental health. It does. It doesn't mean you're crazy or you do crazy things. It really centers on you having to be honest with yourself. And a lot of people don't want to do that. When we dig into some of the truths about, when we get into actual biblical history, not just the Bible itself, but the history surrounding the Bible and when it was put together and the people behind that, and start getting into those details, people go ghost. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear it. Because they've trained their mind to think one way and that's it. So you continue to say to yourself over and over again, things like, hey, listen, I'm going to pray for so-and-so and they're going to rise up and heal. They're going to get healed. 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 I'm going to keep saying it over and over again. And it isn't until the doctor gives him the right pill, all of a sudden the person starts doing well. And they're like, oh, thank you, Jesus. They got healed. No, it was the doctor gave him the right pill. And then when you try to tell him that, it's like, well, no, see, that's the devil in you. You the devil, not the doctor that's giving them doing trial and error, poisoning you until they figure it out. You the devil for telling them, hey, no. It's people online have lied to us. It's time for us to wake up on that. And speaking of people lying to us, I did a post talking about the Trump situation here. Let me see if I can pull that up for you real quick. Because Trump, that in of itself is a whole comedy show just to watch. I mean, that is really, really something here. Let me get this post up really quick here. That is really something to see how Trump has flipped the way he's flipped, and how people just, you got a lot of people that just going right along with it. They go right along with it here. Okay, so here we go with the post here. Let me get this post here up on the screen. And let me share that with you here. Not that. It's going to be this one. All right, here we go. Real quick here. I said a significant pillar of the Trump campaign during the election season was him promising to release the Epstein files. And for Trump to sit up here and act like he's just so disinterested and it ain't no big deal, and I don't know why y'all making it a big deal and all this other stuff. He is a whole lie. Trump is a whole lie to get up here and to try to act like it was never a big deal. That was one of the main parts of his whole campaign. So no, we ain't falling for that. Not over here. Okay. But you listen to numbers of his followers, they're up here talking about he's playing 4D chess. And it's like, really, y'all? Really? I mean, you hear me talking about some of the games that go on in the black church. I'm telling you, these Trump followers, they giving black church a whole runner for their money right now, man. I mean, I talk about how, people in the church, how they'll excuse the pastor for misdeeds and all this stuff, and they'll say it's the anointing, it's the Holy Spirit, or it's the devil, or whatever. These Trump supporters, they ain't no different. They coming up with all kind of excuses. See, you just don't really understand the mathematics and the science that Trump is doing right now. You don't understand the physics and the quantum physics that he's playing right now. And see, you don't understand it. That's your problem. Okay. All right. Once in office, he and his administration are still gassing people up about the files, with Attorney General Pam Bondi, literally claiming that the files were on her desk. And yes, she did. We got those tapes. Okay. They even described how they had to send trucks to raid the New York FBI office to retrieve files from a secret room. Yes, all of that I remember. All of that I do remember. Announcement is later made that there is nothing substantial to report. Case closed. They did all this hype, and then all of a sudden they said, just like that, ain't nothing to report. Nothing. Let's keep moving. In other news, Trump, he pressured Coca-Cola to change their formula to now use real sugar in it. And so now the Coca-Cola is going to start tasting better now. They switched to that so quick. I was like, okay, we talking about little children being trafficked to Coca-Cola, and people were switching. I mean, it was like, okay, yes, Coca-Cola. That's right. What are you talking about? What are you looking at? Don't you know he's working his science right now? Anyway, from here it becomes very revealing. Adults who are actual worshipers of Trump, as they make claims about him playing 4D chess with the deep state. I can tell you, there's so many people out here now, bloggers, that are getting paid to put stuff out. Some are not, but there's some that are putting all kinds of stuff, trying to make people act like they didn't hear what they heard, and saying that, yeah, we need to move on from this. It also revealed just how much influence that Mossad has on American politics. And as I said in this post here, if you haven't been following Candace Owens, been listening to her lately. Now, I want you to put aside, because some of y'all have gotten so triggered by just the mention of her name, you just completely shut her down. But let me tell you something. I could put aside the other stuff here. At the end of the day, truth is truth. And what she's been talking about, this is a lot bigger than Epstein Island. And she's been laying it out. She's not the only one, by the way. There's been other people that have been putting in work for a long time about Epstein and all those connections and all of that. There's a person by the name of Whitney Webb. She's been putting it in work. There's others as well that been talking about this. And but Candace Owens, that's just one that a lot of people are more familiar with. And if you do want to kind of familiarize yourself with the bigger story, I would definitely suggest you check out her series that's going on right now on this topic. And it's amazing to sit back and to listen to and to watch the different commenters on her saying, oh, she going crazy now. She sounds like she's an idiot. There are people out here right now. I was going to mention the person's name, but I'll wait. But there are ministers, black ministers. There are black bloggers out here that are lining up to say all kind of things about Candace Owens. She don't know what she's talking about. And how dare she touches God's anointed people. How dare she touches them. How dare she brings up anything about them. Don't you know there's a curse that's going to come on you if you touch the people of God? But where does Mossad fit into all of that? Oh, I don't know anything about no Mossad, nothing. See, no, these are God's chosen people. How dare you even talk about them? They won't get into that part of it. There's a black guy. He's out here. I was going to talk about him last time. I was like, whatever. But you can look him up. He is a black dude. He's a rapper, but he's deep into Judaism. And I mean, he wears like the black hat, the black suit, the white shirt, the whole nine. And he would probably grow those old, locks that they wear. He probably would grow those too, but I don't think he got enough hair on his head to do that. And he's out here, got a whole a podcast where he was just going in on Candace Owens. And they just, yeah, that's right, brother. See, I knew you were one of us. Anyway. Yeah. How much influence Mossad has on American politics. Did you guys hear about, and this is tied to, just that point right there. There was a vote that was just put on the floor today in Congress. It's right. As soon as I can find it. Okay. They put a vote, and it's very interesting. This was, it was Amendment 114 to HR 580. I'm sure many of y'all remember that, but you'll get it. But they just put this up. And the report, the amendment was to defund Israel's missile defense at a tune of $500 million. You know how that vote went? This is in Congress. You want to get an idea of how that vote went? It failed, of course. But you want to know how much it failed? 6 voted yes to that. 422 said no. So that includes all your favorite Negroesses, congresswomen and congressmen, all of them. They voted to continue to support Israel and what they've been doing. And what's interesting is the 6, it's a combination of some Republicans and some Democrats. But that girl, AOL, y'all know what I mean, AOC, she even voted that she wanted the funding to continue for Israel. You have Massey, you have Al Green. I ain't talking about the singer, y'all. Summer Lee and Omar and Tlaib. Those are the ones that voted that to cut the funding to Israel. Everybody else went for it. Everybody else. So if you want to know how much Israel controls the government, that gives you a good idea just how much control they have. That gives you a very good indicator of just how much control they have. So even a lot of these talking heads that you have out here today, the black ones, the white ones, it doesn't matter. The ones that will skip over. See, don't just get caught up in what I would tell anybody. Don't just get caught up in Israel and their treatment to Gaza. See, that right there is a whole show to me. I mean, there's real people that's dying. But what I'm saying is if you just get fixated just on that, you're missing a much larger picture on the things that are really going on and the things that Israel is really doing and what they've been for years. Y'all, I sure hate repeating things, but, you know, I would suggest you go back in our videos. We have gone all the way back, you know, during the formation of Israel and how that went down. We talked about that. We talked about how there was actually a Nazi hotel in Tel Aviv. Did you know that? There was a Nazi hotel in Tel Aviv? Yeah, there's a picture of it. I posted it. You can look it up. Yeah, Nazis were walking around in Tel Aviv, in Israel. Yep. Then we did an extensive video. This was years ago. We talked about the formation of pornography. We talked about that. People that's behind that. It's all there. It's all there. We can also talk about some of the biggest funders to some of the main black talking heads that you have right now. And you wonder why they don't really get into the details of stuff, certain things. Well, that's a good indicator right there. I mean, when I tell you there are so many things that we can really, really get into. And one day, maybe I will. If I see there's enough interest, maybe I will. But I'm telling you, this is a much deeper thing. The Epstein thing is just the tip of the iceberg. So anyway, let me pull this back up here. It's a much, much, much bigger thing. From here it becomes Mossad. Yeah, we talked about that. Trump has since decided to throw a significant part of his base under the bus, acting as if the whole thing was never a big deal in the first place. And I just told you, yeah, it was, because it was part of your whole campaign. So miss us with all of that. Now, because the issue isn't going away anytime soon, he decides to release more records that were there, then not, and now they're there. His fan base are now on social media claiming that once these records come out, it's going to embarrass the people who were demanding them in the first place. I don't even understand that logic, but somehow it's going to embarrass everybody. Now, if you think for one moment that the government, if they had documents that could implicate just about everybody in the government today, do you actually think that they're going to release everything? Let me ask you this. Have you still seen the MLK documents? What happened to those? And not to mention the fact that there's a lot of stuff that's already been released about the MLK case anyway. I mean, didn't MLK family, I think they won a court case where the government had to admit that, yeah, they were involved in his assassination. I mean, there are things that are already out. You understand what I'm saying? So whatever it is that the Trump administration is planning on releasing, trust and know most of it's going to be blacked out. That's about as much black you're going to see in their administration is on those documents, because they're going to use so much black to blacken all that stuff out. You ain't going to see anything else. All the main things you ain't going to see it. Well, we don't want to release their names, because see, if we release their names, what's going to happen is, the media, they're not going to do their job in differentiating between who was actually doing something versus who wasn't. So we got to take very good care of the information that we put out and all this other stuff. No, y'all are all in on it. Y'all some sick bastards. All of y'all are. All of you. Every last one of you are. I mean, if we knew a tenth of the stuff that these people were engaged in, I don't care how many crosses they throw around their neck. I don't care how many scriptures and how many times they talk about Jesus Christ as King and all this stuff. A lot of these people, man, behind closed doors, they in some wicked and dark stuff, man, for real. And that's why I said, bringing it back to what I was saying earlier, if you are dealing with some mental stuff, ain't nowhere in the world you're going to be able to handle this stuff. Ain't nowhere in the world. And what else did I say here? I said, I said if the sooner released documents were just merely nothing burgers, then why didn't they not release them in the first place? Like, in other words, if it was nothing, if these things were, it's nothing, y'all making a big deal about nothing, okay, fine, then why you didn't release them in the first place? You should have just dropped them in the first place and it would have been no deal. But no, y'all ain't releasing everything. You're not, and it's not going to happen. Why? Because it's going to fully expose how what Epstein was doing was part of a much bigger operation, a honeypot. Ain't no different than what Sean Combs was doing. Same thing. That was one big honeypot operation that they were doing, which Sean Combs was involved in. Same thing. Now let's be real. I do believe that you have some people. I don't believe everyone that went to Epstein Island or everyone that went to a Sean Combs party was in on that stuff. I don't think that's the case. I would want to think that, I think it was there. And if you chose to be a part of it, if you chose, it was there for you. Otherwise, if you were smart enough, you figured out what was going on and broke up out of there. You know what I mean? But still, if you know this person or these persons have this reputation, why would you want to take the chance to soil your reputation by being around them? I mean, in other words, if the word is out that Epstein, for example, is someone that is, he messes around with little children and all this other stuff, why would you want to associate yourself with that? I mean, you remember there was an interview with John McCain's wife, Senator John McCain, his wife. She was up on stage saying, you can look this up. She said, oh yeah, we all knew what Jeff was into. They knew. And then what's his name? Bill Gates' wife, Melinda Gates. She said herself, the reason why she divorced, one of the main reasons why she divorced her husband was because of his association with Epstein. So there was a whole society of folks who knew what this man was about. But somehow there ain't no big deal. Again, you got children that's involved in this thing. And then Candace Owens, she was going through the details of how Gasoline, whatever, Maxwell, how she would literally sit out in front of schools waiting for certain girls to come out and try to talk them into, hey, free trip to the islands and all this other stuff. And next thing you know, they all caught up in a whole situation. But see, let me just kind of bring this down even closer to home for us as black folks. Do you understand that we don't even need to talk about Epstein here? We don't even need to talk about Epstein. Why talk about Epstein when you got that kind of activity happening in places like Atlanta? Did you know that Atlanta was one of it's considered probably the top most place in the United States where sex trafficking takes place? Atlanta. Did you know that? It was one of the top places. I don't know where it ranks today, but for years it was considered the top city in America. Yeah, Atlanta, Georgia. I didn't say Atlantis. I didn't say Atlantis, Atlanta, Georgia. So if you want to know a city in the United States where particularly young women are at the highest risk of being trafficked, go to Atlanta. And with all those churches there, with all those people there, why do you think they should be turning that city inside out? It's not happening. Why? It's part of the culture. It's a cultural thing. Hey, shoot, it's a cultural thing. It's just what we do. It should move you. Something inside of you should be moved when you see girls out here shaking their behinds out here every chance they get. Those are call signs. when they got these on TikTok, on OnlyFans and all this other stuff. This stuff is being ran literally right in front of our eyes. Whole operations on Instagram, whole operations of black women. I got to take a moment on that one. Black women that are being trafficked. I did a while back, I did a video. It was now this was a long time ago, and I was actually thinking about doing it again. What I did was I actually looked at all the owners. I made a big list of all the owners of pornography producers in this country. I did a huge list. I went through each and every one of them, and boy, oh boy, that was a hard one to do because there were things I unfortunately had to see. But I did a list, and this was before, ChatGPT and all that stuff. So this was a lot of manual work on my part I had to do. If I was to do it again, it might be a little bit easier, but they might, I don't know. It might kind of, because of the people who are the main characters in this thing, they probably will make it a little bit more difficult for me. But anyway, I did a list of all these different sites, and when I sites and publishing companies. And I'm not just talking like the big ones like OnlyFans or Pornhub and all that. I'm talking about stuff that most people don't even know about unless you're in that world. There's a site called Blacked. There's other ones too. But any genre that you can possibly think of, I was looking at all of it. So it was a deep dive for me. And not surprisingly, the people who are at the top of the vast majority of these houses, if you will, are the chosen ones. And I especially took interest on the genre that features interracial, because this one was really interesting. When I started digging into the interracial genre of that very disgusting world, there were things in there that I saw that, like I said, again, this happens all the time. Now, you may not be exposed to it. You may not be engaged into it, but I am telling you, this happens a lot, a whole lot. And it's a normal thing. There are genres that focus on portraying black women as basically toilets, where you can get a black woman, and one of the fantasies, if you will, is you can sit on her mouth and do number one, number two, whatever it is you want to do, and she will take it. As long as the money is green, there's a whole list of black women that I have out there today that will do it. I'm not making this up. A whole list. When you get into the gay stuff, there's all kinds of stuff. We got black men that will be willingly play the role of a slave. I saw this one where it was a black woman. This guy, he was just, I was like, how do you, is there nothing in you that says, I need to get the hell up out of here? This guy, listen to what I'm saying. This is what happened. This guy, my daughter, I think she was the one that told me about it. And I saw this guy. Just imagine you go into somebody's house, right? And you go into the house and they got, nice house. And then they got like the big windows, like oriental carpets, real nice, right? And he unraveled the carpet, and under the carpet, there was a big hole. And it was actually like a cage. And so what he would do is lower somebody into that cage, lock it up. They would be in the cage butt naked. And they would put the carpet on top. Hopefully there was some breathing holes down there, whatever. And then they would just go about walking, doing their business or whatever. But the rush was ooh, I got somebody under my carpet that's butt naked. This is the perversion that's out here. And a lot of it does focus on black women and black men. See, this is why you will never see me engaging in this whole petty stuff that you see. See, this is why these black women this, and this is why this black man. See, it goes a lot deeper than that. When you have lost so much self-respect that you're willing to engage in that kind of behavior, but never talk about it, to that degree, you're complicit. The reason why I don't talk about that stuff, of course, on a regular is because of the fact of the platform I'm on. But I do talk about it. I've actually done videos. I've talked about this stuff a lot. But this is happening. This happens every day. Where you got young girls that are into this stuff. And just because you don't see it, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It is happening. My advice to you, I mean, I would, if you think I'm lying, then I would say like anything else, look it up yourself, but be very careful because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And this stuff is free and it's open all on the internet, all on the internet, all on the internet. Oh, it's just a small segment. Oh, it's just a little bit. No, there's quite a bit. There's quite a few. And when you're on like Instagram or some of these other platforms or whatever, you got to know what to look for. You think, oh man, she look good and all that. She just showing her stuff or whatever. But a lot of that are just advertisements to, hey, click here and then you can see more stuff. I remember a while back, I had to completely delete my entire Twitter page account I had. And it was something on there. All of a sudden, all this pornography start coming on there. Every time I get on, it was just pouring. I wasn't really clicking on anything, but it was just coming up over and over again, and I could not get rid of it. No matter what I did, I could not get rid of it. I was sitting right here where I'm sitting right now, and I was here for hours going on my phone saying, I'm not interested. I'm not interested. I'm not interested. I kept saying it over and over again, and no matter how much I said it, no matter how much I clicked on it, it was still coming back. And it was like no, you're not. No, I'm gonna keep pushing this. What you have to understand is this system that we're dealing with, it is so tied in at the hip with that kind of stuff. You just don't know. They are getting millions of dollars. Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, or all these, any platform that allows that kind of stuff, they are getting a lot of money off of that. And you'll see a lot of black women that are in on that. And you see, and the Asian, please, that's a whole nother topic right there. When you get Asians, that's a big thing, The thing about having a beard, sometimes that hair get in your mouth. Yeah, you'll find a lot of Asians that are in on that too. How they sexualize those young girls and stuff like that. You ever see these Asians when they're wearing them little skirts and they dress them in schoolgirl stuff? That's all like that's that perversion stuff that they got going on over there, like in Japan. Especially you see that like in Japan. But black culture is a culture where there isn't any real standards when it comes to drawing the line on that stuff. And these are segments of what we call black culture that is right under the current. It's right under the current, just right under the layer, and a lot of people don't want to talk about. So when I see our young women out here doing the twerking and all that kind of stuff, I immediately, it makes me mad now. It makes me mad. I mean, I never liked it anyway, but it really angers me, especially now I'm seeing little girls doing this. Because you literally are exposing them to a very dark world. And like I said again, this is before you get to the Jeff Epstein stuff. The Jeff Epstein stuff, that's a whole nother layer of stuff. But this is stuff that's happening right amongst us right now. Some of you may know people that's in on this stuff. Some of you might be addicted to watching it. Anyway, let's move on. This hair. Anyway, One last thing here. We're going to get into this fluoride real quick here. I think I mentioned this before. Where is it? Where would that be under? Let's see. Go to my bookmarks again. I think that would be under health. And in the meantime, I could just tell you about it. Basically, what has happened is, as you know, the Trump administration has the Trump campaign was pushing how they are going to basically go hard after these different local water companies that are adding fluoride to their water supply. Now, fluoride in of itself, you do not need to add fluoride to your water. Fluoride is a natural occurring chemical that's there. It's depending on where you live, you will find some traces of it. That's fine. If it's natural, it's fine. But you don't need to add any more to it. The argument of adding fluoride is that it helps with dental care. That is not exactly true. It's not true at all, because fluoride in of itself, if you're taking in too much of it, it actually has a direct impact on your brain. It's not good for your brain at all. It is not good for your brain. In fact, to cut to the chase, it can make you stupid. It makes you stupid. Okay, when you are taking in a significant amount of fluoride. This is why we tell people all the time, no, you don't need fluoride. Like that. Not that man-made stuff. You don't need that. Okay, you don't need that. Again, another plug for Sombertree. Go to sombertree.com. Again, we have natural toothpaste. We don't do the fluoride and we're going to add this and that. Nope. It's all 100% natural. You don't need to be brushing your teeth with Crest and AIM and all these other ones, these other products out here that have all that added stuff in here. You do not need to do that. What's tied to tooth decay is not just fluoride, but it's also stress. Stress can accelerate tooth decay. It's not just sugary stuff. That's a part of it. Your diet, yep, that's a part of it too. But stress plays a huge factor in your tooth health. So you can drink all the fluoride you want, but if you're a very stressed out person, your teeth will get worse. You understand? And I've seen that personally. And so, yes, stress can do that. And so anyway, the Trump administration made this commitment that somehow that they were going to go after these companies. But no, they did when, what's his name? RFK, he got in place. And he stuck to his guns and said, hey, listen, we're going to go after it. And to his credit, he did. They went after it, pushed it in court, and they actually won the court case, in regards to putting a heavy demand on these local water companies to stop putting fluoride. But then as you go through, what you'll find is that the Trump administration on the other side, they actually are fighting against it at the same time. And they're saying, we want to continue to add to it. So you literally got one side of the Trump administration that's pushing it, the other side that's saying, no. We don't want it. We want it to continue. And so this is what you got going on here. So we can raise a lot of, when it comes to what was going on in Flint, Michigan, right? But fluoride is something that you need to take very, very serious. You got to take it very serious. Fluoride can be very dangerous to your plants. Some of you, you have plants. Like I finally found a spider plant. And, I was just checking some things out, and I looked it up, and they said, well, yeah, the reason why you see spider plants do this, they said one of the reasons why is because there's too much fluoride. Yeah, you can actually damage your plants by when they take in too much fluoride. So if it's doing that to plants, what do you think it's doing to you? So no, you don't want to do that. Fortunately, we live in a state here in Arizona, they don't do that. They don't add fluoride. So thankful for that. And they may add some other things in there, but at least they don't do that. But you definitely want to, and if you want to find out if your state or if your local water company adds fluoride, just do a search and you'll find it. And if they do add fluoride, there are things you can get. You can get there are filters out there that will help filter out some of that fluoride. You definitely want to do that. You definitely want to do that. This is an old trick that they've been doing in this country for years. And the reason why they want more fluoride is because they want a dumber society. They want a society that they can easily control. And fluoride is one of the many ways that they are using, they have used for years to control the population, to get you to a place where you are dumber. You're not asking as much questions. You're just kind of going with it. So you need to take an active role. Don't wait until some racist thing happens and now all of a sudden we got to march and all this other stuff. Stop waiting for that stuff. You got the information. Now, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? You got the information. Your house plants are even telling you, hey, we don't want this fluoride. So if your house plants are telling you, what are you going to do? You understand what I'm saying? So please take the time and investigate these things like I'm telling you. Because these people are not, I don't care, they're Democrat or Republican, they do not care about you. We talked about the Jeff Epstein situation there. You also got the same thing with Hillary emails. What did he say? One of the first things I'm going to do is when I get into office, we're going to expose those emails. Have you seen those emails yet? No, of course not. These people at the end of the day are about protecting themselves. Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter. And they are some very sick people. The stuff these people do, stuff we don't even know about, but they put enough out there to let you know that, you know, we're into this kind of stuff. You better take this stuff seriously. You better take this stuff seriously. So it's bigger than Epstein. Epstein is just one part of it. He's a main part of it, but he's only one part of it. But getting back to the main point, and then we're done here, is again, this all ties in again, is your mental health. Your mental health in these days have to be sharp. They have to be sharp, because I'm telling you, I wish I could move even closer into this thing, in this camera here, because I'm telling you, the days that we're living in right now, it's imperative for you to have a sharp mind, because you're going to need to be a person that challenges narratives. You're going to need to be a person that asks questions. And when you start seeing, you're going to need to be a person that's discerning and know when people are kind of lying to you and pulling your leg and all this other stuff. You're going to need to be that person. And in many cases, I'm telling you this, you are going to be someone that's going to be walking this journey, this walk by yourself. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They don't want to hear that, because that's scary for a lot of people. They don't want to walk by themselves. They want to be in a large group. They want to be in a crowd. They want to follow a crowd. And what I'm telling you is, in this, what I am learning is, unfortunately, in this life, it's going to be a walk where it's going to be a lonely walk. It is. It's going to be a very lonely walk if you are truly someone that's about the truth. And most people are not prepared for it. They're not. So something that I want you to really think about that. I want you to really think about that. How committed are you to truth? Because in this path of truth, there are no names. And when I mean names, it ain't name groups. Like, well, I'm part of FBA, or I'm the ADOS, or I'm the Christian, I'm a Christian, I'm a Hebrew, and all this stuff. You're going to have to put away all the names. You're going to have to put away all of that. And you're going to have to start with you. It starts with you. You are going to have to make up your mind. Am I committed to truth? Because see, when you start putting yourself in these different boxes, what happens is you limit yourself from all the other information that's out there, everything else. See, I want all of it. I don't want to be in some little constricted box where I got to just fall in line with this particular group. I want to know all of it. And when you make that request that you want all of it, let me tell you something. You better be prepared. Because the more and more you hear, there's going to be a lot of times it's going to make you more and more depressed. I'm telling you. But you're going to have to fight through that. Truth isn't just a click. Truth is a lifestyle. And in truth, there's a lot of pain that comes with that. There's a lot of misunderstanding. There's a lot of rejection that comes with that. And in many cases, most people don't want to have anything to do with you. But that is the cost of truth. It is. That's the cost that comes with someone who truly wants to walk in truth. It comes with it. So are you prepared for it? So anyway, just want to let you know too, just a reminder, yes, we do. We are still running our 20% sale over at Sombertree.com. Sombertree.com. We have all kinds of things there, natural products, because we're about providing real tangible solutions to things like, some of these ailments that a lot of people are dealing with right now. And there are natural solutions to all of these things that are out here. And we try to do our small part to address that. And then we have a whole product line that we just created that deals with what you call optimizing your brain. What herbs are best for your prefrontal cortex, which herbs are best for your adrenal glands, what herbs are best. We have packaged these things up that will help you in these areas. Now, are they going to completely restore everything? No, of course not, because it's tied to a number of other factors as well, that mainly decisions that you're going to have to make in your life. But these are just things that will assist you in that process, right? So we got a ton of things there. 20% off sale that we have going on right now. Again, make sure if you signed up for or considering signing up for our alternate day fasting class that will be happening this Sunday, make sure you go ahead and hurry up now and get into it, because our goal is on the other side of that. We want to see some transformed lives. Skinny bodies are good, but we want to see some transformed lives. We are doing our part to help people create some new legacies in your life. I'm tired of just the problems. Let's create some new legacies so that we can have some stronger families, stronger individuals, and we can go out in this thing and continue to do big things. Okay. And we're going to do our part. So if you want to be a part of that, make sure you sign up today. Go over to Sombertree.com and check that out. Okay. But that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you guys have enjoy the rest of your day, your evening, week, whatever it is you're watching this. Take care. And I will be talking to you soon. Take care. See you again.